What's going on? This is Dag with Emergency Lighting by Dag. Today we are doing something a little different than all my other videos I've done to this point. We are doing a how-to video on how to work on some domes. This is something that a lot of people who work on emergency lights and collect them have to struggle with, is how to get that really clear dome. So this is the first video where I've chosen to kind of let y'all hear my voice a little bit, offer a little bit of narration, and that's just because the nature of the video. I feel like I really didn't have a whole lot of options. So just as a quick example, here's one of our domes. This is from an Aerodynic. It's by Federal Signal. That's what all these domes right here are from. Some of you might have known that, but for those of you who don't, there it is. So here's one of our domes in the condition I got it. Used, scratched, worn, really scuffed, things of that nature. All these domes are eventually going to be cleaned up, but today I'm going to focus on this amber one. But I wanted to show you kind of some of the steps in the process. So here's what you're going to start working with. Eventually you'll work on wet sanding and creating your surface the way that you want it to. You can see it's really scuffed, but as I'll explain later on, that's actually a good thing, and we're going to use that to our advantage. And then finally, once we work through all those steps I'm about to tell you all about, we're going to come out with a beautiful finished project just like this right here. So if you want to know how to take domes like those two I just showed you and make them just about crystal clear and as close to factory and as close to a perfect shine as you're going to be able to get out of a used dome, stick around. I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to be doing a little bit of wet sanding, and then we're going to be doing a sealant. So all you're really going to need is whatever dome you're working on, a decent amount of time, because this isn't a fast project. You're going to need some sandpaper, and then you're going to need parts to a headlight kit, just like this one. You'll need a bucket with a little bit of water and a little bit of soap ideally, and that's all you really. Alright, so I just finished up doing my first round of wet sanding. Due to some of the damage on this dome, I started with something pretty aggressive, 600. Now, I'm starting to get a consistent layer of scratches, which is actually what you're looking for when you're doing the sanding. But as you can see, like right there where you're looking at the light, down there where you're looking at the light, it still has some little dings and scratches, and that's the only reason why I started so aggressive, is because of the condition this dome was in. So I'm going to go ahead and do it one more time, and we'll come back and look at it again. Alright, so I've gone back through and given this dome right here another sanding with 600, and I'm seeing everything being consistent and smooth. Now, the visibility through the dome may be a little worse than it was originally, but that's just because I want the whole dome to go through the same process, so I'll get the same consistent look throughout. So you can see all the scratches, not too deep, but they're consistent all the way across. That's what I'm looking for. So now that I've gotten all the major marks and scuffs and dings out, we're going to move on, and we're going to move to something a little bit more gentle and start working into some finer scratches. Now I've gone directly to 2000 because I've actually had pretty decent success with that. And as you can see with that 2000, we're starting to get clarity back. You can see there's definitely still scratches and swirls and things like that, but they're leveling out and becoming pretty even throughout. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna put one more grit of sandpaper. I'm gonna go to 2500. I'm gonna do that, and then we're gonna go ahead and put a treatment on these lenses, and we're gonna see how they turn out. Now I am done with the wet sanding. That's as far as I'm gonna go, is 2500, because I still need some of these little bitty scratches and whatnot on the surface for the next step. Now, you can take wet sanding as far as you wanna go. They make grits all the way up until like 3, even 4,000. So you can keep on sanding and sanding and sanding if you want. But today I'm going to stop at 2500 because all of my major gashes, marks, anything like that is out. Stains are gone, things of that nature. So now the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to use a part of a headlight kit. Now in the past I've taken domes very similar to these, and I've cut them and buffed them, and I've gone through and polished them, things of that nature, and I've had good success. But I've also had good success with these headlight kits. And now these headlight kits, normally they'll come kind of like this one. They have these two pads which essentially do the job of the sandpaper, what we've just been doing. The headlight, the cleaning kit right here, you would use that instead of water and a little bit of dish soap like I've done. And then the final coat is this spray right here. Now this is a sealant. It's It's almost like a clear coat that you're gonna apply. So we're gonna go ahead and take this and we're gonna spray it on our dome, and we're gonna have a really clean and polished looking dome by the time that we're done. Go ahead and offer a quick comparison for you all, just to show why I go ahead and do the wet sanding like I do. I took this different dome, it was in similar condition, and I sanded it down using the little pads that came in the kit. Now you can see that they did offer pretty decent scuffs and scratches all the way across, but I think it would take a number of tries to get some of those scratches like you're seeing right there from where this slides along on the base of the bar. And then also where I had these really deep scratches right up top here, you can see that it only offered just so much help. And again, it would probably take multiple tries to get that work down and sanded down using those little pads. That's why I like using the different grits of sandpaper. It offers me a little more control over what I'm doing. And it just, ultimately, I feel like it gives me a little bit of a better outcome. So, like I said, you can go ahead and you can use the kit the way that it comes, and you'll probably get a decent result, but you might get a little bit of a better controlled, a little bit better result just by wet sanding and kind of following the process that I'm outlining here. All right, our sealant has now cured, and here is our final product. Look at that. It's like glass. You're not gonna get much closer to factory than that right there. Look at the diamond plate in that reflection. Look at it. That is absolutely beautiful. And the clarity on it, it's insane. It's absolutely wild. Any issues you're seeing with this dome are probably actually from the inside, because the outside looks phenomenal. I'll show y'all another view here. Here we are out in direct sunlight. Nothing can be hidden in the direct sunlight. People may say, oh, you were inside, you were in the shadows, it may look worse than it actually does. Not even in the slightest. Looking directly at the sun, you're gonna see some mild scuffs and things like that just because it is a used dome. All right, so just to wrap things up, now that you've seen the complete process used in cleaning this dome up, just want to hit on a couple things just in review. So this dome, it was in pretty rough shape. So we started with our wet sanding. That process is just the process of taking inconsistent scratches all over your dome and starting to create consistent scratches, starting with a relatively decent depth and getting them finer and finer until you finally get them to the point where you can do what you're looking to do. That's why we started with the 600, went and hit spots that were incredibly bad, and gave the entire dome 2 or 3 coats with the 600 just to make sure it had even and consistent scratches all throughout. I was happy with that, moved up to 2000, did the entire dome another 2 to 3 times, just depending on how your process is coming along, how it's looking. After that, did our 2500, same process, and finally our sealant. And it just is amazing, the process this dome here has made. So a couple little notes. Whenever I'm wet sanding, I tend to put a drop or 2 of a dish soap in the water, just because that helps to cut down a little bit of that surface tension, things like that. It can make it just a little bit easier to do. I sat there and I did this all by hand. That's just a personal preference for me. It gives me a little bit more of a sense of control and a little bit more of a sense of just being able to have that tactile sense of how things are coming along with the dome and how things are going. If you choose that you're not so comfortable doing it all by hand, I mean, you can still do it by hand with a block, you can do with a sponge, things of that nature, just something to help balance out that sandpaper, because you do want that even pressure just over the entire area that you're working on sanding. So all the products that I've used today, you can find someplace like your basic automotive parts store, things like that. And anybody can do this. It's not necessarily a short process. Today I probably took about 30-45 minutes to just do this one section of dome. So if you're sitting there looking at doing a full-size light bar, for example, this light bar right here, it would have 16 of these panels on it, just because that's what it'll take. So it's going to take time, but there's just no denying that in the end it's going to be well worth it. This is going to be for a bar, for a project I'm actually working on. It's a project bar, a little custom thing that I'm building. So it's going to sit on a shelf, so I want it to look real pretty. That's why I took the time and had the patience to do it. The Liberty that I have on my personal vehicle, I've done this same process to the entire Liberty, and it came out pretty good. Took a little while. I mean, it's a process, but in the end, I think that you'll be really happy if you follow these steps. It may take some practice, it may take a little bit of try, but this is something that just about anybody can do from home.